Hey everyone, good morning, and hope everything is going well for you early this week. So, the last video that I put out, I discussed about Docker for desktop on Windows, and one of the new features that they had launched, which was Kubernetes on your Windows machine. So we discussed about what is the potential impact of that on your workflow and how do you get started, uh, you know, trying to set up Kubernetes on your Windows machine. So I thought this will take this time off this video to actually look at how you can get started without installing Kubernetes on your Windows machine, and then we can explore much further in the next videos on how we can connect what we are discussing now and the Kubernetes on Windows video. So the first thing is that while you actually have, if it's very easy to actually click enable Kubernetes and deploy Docker Compose and Docker Stacks to Kubernetes by default, and immediately hit on sorry. Okay, let me actually pick a frame here. Let's pick winter foliage and so it's very easy to actually do this, but when you're actually developing code, you need to have a sanitized environment where you can pipeline that to the Kubernetes that you're running here. In case you want to load test it or build, if you're building a desktop app that requires a backend API, so you can actually prototype the entire setup on your local machine. Now, one of the aspects of this that has been kind of left out is where do you get those development images of your code? So let's say you're iterating on a piece of code in Node, or it could be in Golang, or it could be in Python, it could be in Julia. How do you actually get that containerized so that you can deploy it onto the Kubernetes that you have on your local machine? So that's what we're going to talk about now in this video. So Visual Studio has launched a feature simultaneously called, and it seems kind of popular, that called Dev Containers, and they've expanded support for this within the IDE. So Dev Containers with Visual Studio Code. So I actually wanted to just show you how this works, because this is a way to actually containerize your OS, and via a shared volume with the Docker process, Docker daemon, you can actually access the sanitized environment within the code where it's running on your local machine. So that's going to show up. That's going to show up here in as one of your containers. So these are all the log messages, or like at least the critical events and the containers running on behalf of Kubernetes. So it's going to show up here, and you can take that dev container, iterate on it, and then later deploy it to Kubernetes as well. So let's try. They have provided some sample projects for us to try this out. So let's go and try that out. So let's open Visual Studio Code. So if you're a Node developer, there's like a lot of times, actually, there's a lot of times that you'll actually have to deal with issues concerning package dependencies and debugging whether the types of something have changed in case you're not using TypeScript. So there's a lot of these bugs that usually creep in because things are not completely type safe. So one of the things that this is doing here is, this is a project that I've downloaded, a template project. It's called VS Code Remote Try Node. We can try something else as well. So we can just go for we can just go for a different dev container later. But essentially, when you do this, right, when you open a project that has this file, the dev container.json, you'll actually see that this is a declaration format for VS Code to know that there is a dev container associated with this node project. So that dev container is defined in a Docker file. So it could typically be, this is a very the standard template that comes with it. And the terminal is supposed to be a bash terminal, not like one of the other terminals, not a ZSH terminal, for example. Add the IDs of the extensions you want installed. So you can install extensions that you need while working on the IDE. So if you go to the terminal here, the terminal that you see, this is called an integrated terminal. So in case this doesn't open for you automatically, you can go and click this button, create new integrated terminal, and it's going to open up a terminal for you. So let's go to the first one that we have running here, because you can have multiple terminals as well. And let's just see what the OS is, you know. So this is the code. So it's a Debian OS with it's the Buster version code release. So this is actually quite awesome. So you're inside a VM right now. You're not actually developing on your Windows machine, but you're developing on a container within the Windows machine that you have. So this is completely sanitized environment. This is a completely sanitized environment just for the node project that you have here. And this is the Docker file. You can obviously customize this with whatever you would like to have. Let's say I want to make sure that there's even htop here, so you can actually see what's going on. So we can try to build this. Okay, so it's running. And the amazing thing that it's doing is it's actually even forwarding the port. So you can actually see that the port itself is being forwarded. And you can see the ports that are being forwarded over here. You know, these are all the containers running on the machine. So these are the Kubernetes. This is the Kubernetes dashboard container. This is the project that we're working on. And you can go to this link and you can see that it's actually working. And if you go and make a change in the project, let's say I go and change something in the project. Okay, let's say I want to try out like a different port. I think it's kind of locked. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, so I made a change here. I said I'll pick this port 4600 and then I'll say hello remote world. Okay, so this should automatically update as far as if you were to rerun this should update and it should run on the other port. So you can check here now that it's automatically running on the other port. This is within the container image that you have set up for your development environment. And when you click on this, it takes you to your updated code. So this is pretty awesome, right? Like, so imagine developing on a node project wherein you don't have to deal with a bunch of whole class of issues because you have a dev container set up. And once you have this running, you can obviously go ahead and deploy this to your Kubernetes environment here. So these Kubernetes environments are essentially the environments where a full-blown version of your machine can be of your image can run. So you can actually auto-scale them in response to demand. You can run something which is just processing photographs, for example, like. You're having a video setup and you've written some custom software to basically customize the processing of your raw photographs that you're capturing on set, and then potentially a video that you're editing, and you can use FFmpeg and various other tools within your node project to basically speed up the processing of some of those items right on your desktop. So this is just a fun project, but you think about like the larger scope of issues and whatever you can come up with. I think this is quite amazing. So the thing is here, if I change you can stop forwarding the port, you can open in browser. It's pretty awesome, right? Like, so it's all integrated really well. So I think this was really good as a concept, and it seems to be working in when in this video as well. But one of the things I wanted to try out was I wanted to show you how I got these samples so that you can also try it out. So the samples came from, okay, let's see, dev container, Command Shift P, so I think it's called remote container or something. So it's like remote container try So actually, I can't find it now. But there's a place where you can actually. Oh yeah, so somewhere here, open workspace. So what happens is you can actually clone this. You can actually clone an entire repository in a container volume. Okay, so when you click on this dev container here, you'll actually come up with a bunch of links on remote container. So this is their. So when they say remote container, they're basically referring to something which is outside the Visual Studio Code process. So it could, and I think by now, by default, it's referring to something that's on your own machine. It could potentially be on Azure one day, but like today, it's running on my own machine. So this that you see, this container of Debian that you see here is running on this machine. So if we clone a repository in container volume, so let's say I want to work on a new project from GitHub. So I can actually click on GitHub, and let's say I click on Harbor, which is a CNCF project, and I pick the branch master, and I'll create a unique volume because I don't want to mix up the projects. Create a unique volume, and the moment I do this, it's going to set up Harbor, which is a CNCF project for it's a registry management. It's a registry basically for containers. So you can actually work on a project that is a registry for containers from within a container, and you can do all of that from your Windows machine, and you can auto scale it if needed with Kubernetes on Windows. So that's like pretty amazing. Technically, Docker for desktop is not the. Let me be clear that what they're offering is not specific to Windows. They have the same software for Mac and Linux as well. But it's just that because it's a consistent and easy to use format, you can actually go and look at like certain things. Like you can actually look at your container and you can see what's going on. You can log into the container. You can go to workspaces, and you can see there's Harbor here already. So you can do all these things. It's while you're sitting and watching like the boot up process of your IDE itself. So today when your IDE boots up, it not only can actually do all of this bring all of this amazing functionality of the IDE, but it can also set up your entire work environment like a clean slate every time you try to open the project. So it's actually working on this Harbor project. It's cloning the repository. You can see that it's so let me pick something here where I'll say it's let me just pick up something here where I can open the entire container. So you can see that it's actually live tailing the project of setting this up. So it's live tailing CNCF's so it's pulling basically the container image and as well as the code for of Harbor, so that we can actually edit the code here. So take a look at let's take a look at what it's doing, because it takes a little time to set it up. But once it's set up, you can actually work the same way that we saw earlier. You open it and the container is already on your machine, and it updates it with any changes that you do in the IDE. So effectively, you're working on the code that's inside the container. So that's what it's doing. So that's how it's able to maintain that latency and make sure that it works really in real time. Because if every time it was like rebuilding the container and copying the code from outside, that's kind of like going to be messy, right? Every change that you do. So this is actually quite good. But I wanted to see how a full-blown project would look like a Harbor with this workflow. So it takes a little time to set up the initial container, but this is usually common for any container approach today. And there are people who are working on like multi-step builds and various other techniques to actually speed up this process as well. So a multi-stage build is something where like you have like, instead of building a large container right in the first step, you actually build out like a tree of containers. So you have like a layered container approach wherein like there's a common underlying basis, and then that is shared and not duplicated very often, whereas the other aspects of the container are kind of like, for example, whether you want to run Node or Golang, and those aspects of the commands of building a container are kind of higher in a different stage of the build. So that allows you to save time and space and when you operate with containers. So, but first you need scale, right? So you need a scale where that kind of an approach is justified to take, or justified as an investment in time and effort by some of the maintainers and all the lead developers in the project. So this is something where I think if we adopt this as a general workflow across Visual Studio Code, then I think it's kind of going to be really helpful for investing in those areas where we can make the maximum difference and maximum impact for speeding up containers and making them effective for daily use, both on the client side, on the edge, and also on the server side. So where they're already quite popular. So I think this is what it should ideally be like, because there are languages who have been penalized because they have evolved in an era where there wasn't enough focus on, say, preventing side effects in the code. So particularly like Python, and there are a few languages which have, and Node.js, I think TypeScript has helped solve that problem to a little bit, but like essentially some of the concerns that of different languages have not been completely addressed by the DevOps tooling that we have. So this approach is kind of bringing the DevOps tooling up to speed, so that you can actually, if you already have a skill set working with Node.js or JavaScript or TypeScript or Python, you will be not left behind when you meet a developer who's working on Golang in the market. So like you want to make sure that the choices that you make as much as possible can be free of the impact of the containerized biases. So there are obviously biases in whom containerization serves best, and there are obviously biases in whom containerization does not serve best. So I think this is a good step in that direction, because it kind of equalizes the playing field for a lot of developers. So let's just see what's going on here and why it's taking a lot of time. It's actually downloading a lot of image layers. So we can go and check in over here, I think, see what's going on. So just take a look at the size of the images, right? It's like, I have like, this entire setup costed around 4.25 GB. So this is a good way to use disk space on your machine, because it's like it kind of speeds up your development while it actually uses stuff that you have lying around. There are machines shipping with like 512 GB of disk space, and 4 GB is like quite reasonable to get like sanitized workspaces on your machine, and I'm sure they're going to make this like much more smaller. And the reason it's so high is because it's fetching many of these Docker containers which haven't been purpose built for this purpose. So they were purpose built originally for probably like deploying on the cloud or something, where they want to make sure that there's absolutely as little as possible in terms of code that is leaking out or being. Okay, so while this is going on, I just wanted to show you something that I found out in Docker. So it looks like when we actually sign into this log into this container, it's actually it has the code now that we noticed that it did not have earlier. So let's go to Harbor. Yeah, so it has the Harbor code from CNCF. So you can check out like. So it actually has this project code here right now. So which is what we were trying to do right in the setup. So that's kind of like quite nice to. So it's not installed a bunch of these commands though. So we will have to wait until we get the full environment access through Visual Studio Code. But until then, I think this is good enough, right? Like I think you saw the other project that we were working on that kind of like opened up a new avenue of exploration. So especially for Node.js. So let me just open that up again, and then we'll kind of like cut short this video at that point. So this is the machine that we were trying, right? Like, so it's already has everything set up, and so it's made its own username, which is as per the Node.js project, and it has the code here. Let's add so you could actually even have like I think you can install stuff here if you want, and then you can customize the image. So let's say so I'm just installing the CLI for Postman, which is called Newman. So and I also want to make sure that it's always present in the container, so I'll just add here. And then that's it, so it should work, you know. So that's kind of amazing, right? So I think I'll have to open an integrated terminal again. Okay, it looks like I haven't figured out a bunch of things about this, but basically the concept is that you can install what packages you need, you can go from there, and you can kind of develop your workflow with your project. I'm going to obviously try this out for with something else, with other projects, and then we'll see how it goes from there, because I feel like this is something that's like so different that it requires us a little time to adjust. So I'm going to take some time, and I'm going to like figure out how this actually works with my workflow. So I'll update you online once I get through some of these feature sets of this release that Visual Studio Code has. So we'll see what happens. Okay then, thank you so much, and I hopefully it did not take too much of your time, but I think I showed you how it feels like to try out something new. So you should feel free in like trying it out on your own projects, and let me know in the comments below what you think it's like. Okay then, thank you.